Good morning, all. I'll invite the singers to come up, please. I've got a group of singers who are going to help us to sing the songs this morning. While they're coming up, for those of you who are counting, I'll just tell you that today is day 888, with 79 days left to the midterms. Okay, are my singers all here? La, la, la. We've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. I got joy like a fountain. I got joy like a fountain. I got joy like a fountain in my soul, in my soul. I got joy like a fountain. Got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. Got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. Love like an ocean in my soul, in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I got love like an ocean. Love like an ocean in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul, in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. Thank you very much. Never sing what was written down.
Good morning again. I'm John Amond, member of the board. My pronouns are he and him. We acknowledge that our campus is located on the traditional unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin-Anishinaabe people. The Algonquin people have inhabited and cared for these lands since time immemorial. We take this time to express our gratitude and respect to them and to the land for all that it has provided and will continue to provide. While we recognize that territorial acknowledgements are only one step in cultivating greater respect for and inclusion of Indigenous peoples, we commit to accompanying these words with actions. We are dedicated to building a future and community that is better for all. A concrete example, no pun intended, is our congregation's work on reconciliation is the Odayanaway development. Ontario Aboriginal Housing Services, OAHS, invites the community to celebrate the ceremonial groundbreaking of the new Odayanaway six-story building on Wednesday, August 19. The ceremony will take place outdoors beginning at 1 p.m. and last approximately 2 hours. A reception follows. If there is rain, much of the event will take place in Worship Hall. Parking will be at a premium, so if you can share a car or come without a car, that would be helpful. Are you interested in working with refugees? Our Refugee Support Action Team is looking to submit an application to sponsor a refugee family soon, and they are expected to arrive quickly. We need to put together a team of people who are prepared to help them get settled. That includes things like finding housing for them on very short notice. It's rewarding work. If you're interested and want to learn more, see Brent and Nicole after the service or email refugees@firstunitarianottawa.ca. I'll be available after the service near the information table in Fellowship Hall to talk about board activities or answer any questions or hear any concerns you may have. I'll be wearing a yellow vest so you can help find me. Thank you.
tend to always forget to do that. Did you take my, thank you. I need my script. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Bonjour, and Minogijip Kinawea. I'm Lisa Boulay, and my pronouns are she, her. A few weeks ago, the board invited the congregation to form a settled minister discernment task force, and the congregation voted in favor. This morning, I'm joined on the chancel by the other members of the task force, Lee Rose, Erin Keene, Ali Hobson, and Alex Campbell. Alex and I will share this morning's reflection entitled A Conversation on Calling and Ministry. Today's service is especially meaningful. A year ago, the board invited Reverend Lara Cowden to serve as our contract minister for 3 years, with the understanding that during that period, the congregation would decide whether to call Reverend Lara as our settled minister. After a year with Reverend Lara, seeing her, listening to her sermons, experiencing her in various ministries, it is time for us to consider the adjacent possible with her. This service marks the official beginning of our congregational discernment process. More on the process itself a little bit later in the service. Together, we will listen for the wisdom, hopes, and commitments of our beloved community as we consider whether to call Reverend Lara as our settled long-term minister. It is good to be with you this morning. If you are joining us online, we bid you a warm welcome. Please greet one another in the chat and have a candle ready to light with us. I also want to offer a special welcome to anyone who's visiting here today. If you are new to First Unitarian, please stop by our welcome table at the back of the pews, and Carol will be there to answer any of your questions. Over the summer, our services have centered on the adjacent possible, the space of opportunity where people and communities can expand and grow, often just one step beyond where they are now. As we step into these adjacent possibilities this morning, we do so knowing that each of us is welcome. Whatever our heritage or faith, culture or race, whatever our gender or orientation, body or life experience, whatever we are seeking this morning, with all of our gifts and wounds, our laughter and tears, all of who we are is welcome here. Today, we are all part of this spiritual community. So welcome, dear friends, to this hour of worship. It is good to be together, and may this time be a blessing to all. And now, let us join our voices in song. No, not now? Okay, not now. Oh, sorry. Hold, please. Okay, all right. Change of plans. There you go.
Good morning. My name is Erin Keene. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you for bearing with us. Today, our centering words are by Reverend Richard Gilbert. It is a circle of caring. Come into this circle of caring. Come into the community of gentleness, of justice and love. Come and you shall be refreshed. Let the healing power of these people penetrate you. Let hope infuse you. And peace be the law of your heart. In this human circle, caring is a calling. All of us are called. So come into the circle of caring. So I have two helpers for our chalice lighting today, Evelyn and Lydia. Put this together. So we're gonna, there's no issue. Don't forget about them. little bit. Oh, the trick flame. Our chalice is lit. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jody McIntosh. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration, and I use she, her pronouns. So this morning's service is all about discernment. And I thought some of our folks down here and maybe out there don't really know that word. I was new to this word. So have you ever had to make a choice that needed a little extra thinking? Maybe you had to decide whether to try something new. Or maybe you had to decide if you wanted to join a team or make a big commitment by joining a club or something at school. So some choices are really easy, and other choices are important enough that we want to slow down. We want to think carefully before deciding. And that is what discernment is. So discernment means taking that time to think. It means listening to our hearts and using our minds and asking good questions and considering the different possibilities before making that choice. Now, during a time of discernment, we don't rush. We wonder and we reflect and we imagine what might happen if we choose one path over another. But there's something interesting about making a choice. So for a choice to be real, there has to be more than one possibility. And we have to be able to consider both the yes and the no. Now, that reminds me of a story called Mr. Yes. So there once was a man named Mr. Yes. And whenever anyone asked him a question, the answer was always the same. What do you think it might be? Yes. The answer was always yes. If someone offered him a dessert, desserts sound good, right? But it was a terrible looking dessert and it tasted even worse. What did he have to say? He couldn't say no because the only thing he could say was yes. If a salesman came along and knocked on his door and offered him gadgets and trinkets and broken stuff and useless odds and ends, what did he have to say? Yes. And before long, his whole house was full of things that he did not need. So at work, his boss discovered something very useful. Whenever he had extra work to do, he asked Mr. Yes. And what do you think Mr. Yes had to say? Yes. So could you do this for me? Yes. And this? Yes. And one more thing? Yes. But Mr. Yes said yes so often that people stopped asking what he wanted. They already knew what his answer was going to be. So one day, something unexpected happened. His boss arrived with another pile of extra work, and just as Mr. Yes opened his mouth, a fly flew by and flew up Mr. Yes's nose, and as he was just about to say yes, a new sound came out. No! What? The boss blinked. Did you just say no? And Mr. Yes was so surprised. But his boss noticed, picked up the extra work, and walked away. So for the first time in his life, Mr. Yes discovered something wonderful. He could say no. At first, he used his new word carefully. Sometimes he still said yes, and sometimes he said no. But now, before he answered, he could stop and think and make the choice. Do I really want this? Maybe it's yes, maybe it's no. Is this good for me? Maybe that's a yes, maybe that's a no. Is this the right choice? Could be a yes, or it could be a no. And because he could say no, his yes began to mean something. It was no longer automatic. It was chosen. That was the real change for Mr. Yes. He didn't start saying no to everything. Instead, he learned how to make a real choice. That's what discernment is. Discernment means taking the time to think before deciding and having that choice. It means considering different possibilities and paying attention to what matters. Before Mr. Yes only had one answer. He wasn't really making a choice. He wasn't choosing. Once he could say both yes and no, he could decide for himself. And that's what is true for us too. When we face a big, important decision, we don't have to rush. We can stop. We can think. We can ask questions. We can listen carefully. And then we finally choose our yes or our no. And we know that it comes from careful thought and an open heart. So let's try it out. What if you only had this? And I said, do you want broccoli ice cream? Who wants broccoli ice cream? Of course, you have to say yes. But if I gave you the choice, who would say no? I think a few of us would say no. So that is the big difference. Thank you so much for our story. We will now sing our children on our way, and the parents, please come to the backyard to pick them up after the service. Thank you.
Will the ushers please come forward? Thank you. Our congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We have been able to live into our dreams and hopes because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. As a reminder, you can also make a donation online by scanning the QR code on the back of your order of service. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. I offer this affirmation of gratitude for the gifts shared today. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by the giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may be held by the generosity of others. May the work of our hands and the generosity of our hearts be given in gratitude today?
Good morning. Happy Sunday. My name's Lee, and I'm pleased to be part of the team today for today's service. And each time we gather for worship, we set aside a moment to expand the caring ministry of our congregation. Together, we recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the center of this and every sacred community. Let us prepare our hearts for this time of sharing with the sounding of our bowl. A stone of gratitude ahead of World Humanitarian Day on August 19th for humanitarian workers who go towards suffering rather than away from it, offering care, food, shelter, and dignity in some of the most difficult places in the world. A stone of joy for Acadian communities across Canada who celebrated National Acadian Day yesterday, and for the cultures, languages, and traditions that enrich our shared life. A stone for Evelyn Algar. We hold you in our thoughts as you navigate your current life challenges. A stone for this congregation as we undertake the important work of discerning whether to call the Reverend Lara Cowton as our settled minister. A stone for thoughtful reflection, open hearts, honest conversation, and the wisdom that emerges when we listen deeply to one another. I invite you now to come forward as you feel moved to do so and share your own stones of celebration, joy, or sorrow with this caring community. And a final stone is always to represent all that remains in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. We have a caring card for Evelyn at the back. Please take a moment after the service today to sign it. Let us join in a moment of silent reflection and prayer to lift all that has been shared.
I invite the singers to come forward, please. We don't have an anthem per se this morning. We're going to sing number 145. You're all going to join in as Tranquil Streams. And at this stage, as the singers are coming up to the podium, I want to extend a very, 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 very special thanks to Susan Carlton for stepping in literally at the very last minute to play the piano. I was supposed to play this morning, but my arthritic thumb is playing up, and I just couldn't manage it. So thank you so much, Sue. Literally the very last minute. So as Tranquil Streams, please, number 145. And the words are up here.
So this is Shared Ministry, Reflections by Mary Bennett, who is the former executive director of the CUC. And it's sharing unique insights on the concept of shared or distributed ministry. In 1666, architect Christopher Wren was commissioned to build St. Paul's Cathedral in London. After it was well underway, he walked by and encountered 3 bricklayers and asked them what they were doing. The first one looked at him and said, "I'm laying bricks, obviously." The second one had a broader understanding of the task and pipes up, "We're building a wall." The third one, who saw the big picture, said, "We're building a cathedral and it's going to be awesome." This story is often used to highlight the difference that having purpose and meaning, the big picture, can have and the results. But just so we don't put down bricklayers or plumbers or baristas, let me quote Martin Luther King, in this case about street sweepers. If a person is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets. Even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry, he should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause and say, "Here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well." Which brings me to the concept of shared ministry. The concept of shared ministry is ascendant within Unitarian Universalism today. It means sharing leadership by transcending hierarchies and rethinking traditional divisions among the role of ministers, religious educators, music ministers, lay leaders, and others. Shared ministry is an approach, collaborative, interconnected, less strictly hierarchical, that lives into the faith's highest values. In our Unitarian Universalist congregations, the minister has specialized training and can inspire and support the community to do ministry together. Ministry is the act of serving. Shared ministry is what we all do to serve our congregation and the broader community, individually and together. This means the minister, the paid staff, the members of the congregation, and it includes the folks who are not official members but want to share in the congregation's work of serving the congregation and the broader community. Each individual brings unique gifts to contribute, and it all depends on our focus as individuals and as a beloved community. Are we simply focused on very specific tasks, singing, handing out orders of service, preparing coffee and tea for fellowship, visiting someone who is ill, developing the campus, indeed anything that promotes the well-being of the congregation? Or are we building an awesome community? Or are we, even as the song says, working toward a planet transformed by our care?
Well, here we are. As advertised in the EUU and emails, we are ready to have a conversation about calling and ministry. So why don't you begin, Alex? And then I'll share my perspective, which will lead into a discussion about the discernment process we are about to begin, and answer the question, why do we have an urn as our centerpiece today?
Thanks, Lisa. It's good to be here with you. We were going to sit on a bench here this morning, but decided it would be easier if we just took to the pulpit. I'll start at the very beginning because that's a very good place to start. And some of you might have heard my stories before. That's okay. Repetition is good and be good for those who haven't heard them. From the time that I was a small kid, I guess I wanted to be a good person. I don't know where this tendency came from. I was raised in a loving family, and I'd heard stories about Jesus and about how he'd gone around doing good and helping people and in need and so forth. And in a sense, I guess when I was 6 or 7 years old, I just wanted to be like him, helping people, doing good things. Just as an aside, about that time, my father wanted me to join the Wolf Cubs, the junior scouts, and I went for a couple of lessons. Didn't like it. Couldn't see the sense in hiding in a cupboard and jumping out when somebody blew a whistle and saying dib dib dob dob RK law and spending the rest of the night tying knots. So I decided to join the St. John Ambulance instead. And I learnt how I could help people in need. When I was a young lad, about 14, I'd been learning to play the piano for about 7 years, and I was pretty good at it. Now, you wouldn't have thought so if you'd heard me playing this morning with my athletic thumb, and that's why I'm so pleased that Susan took the piano. When our new parish church was built, our parish priest, Father Kelly, asked me to be the temporary organist until he found somebody permanent. I agreed, just like Mr. Yes. If I was able to help him and help the parish in need, that was fine with me. So, a teacher in the neighboring convent, an old nun, trained me to play the old harmonium, which we had until we purchased an electronic organ, and I was parish organist for the next 7 years. And so I became involved in the ministry of music in our parish. A little later, there was a shortage of catechism teachers for the young children in the parish. Father Kelly once again asked me if I was interested, and once again, being a Mr. Yes, I said yes. If I could help him and help the kids in the parish, why not? I spent a year being trained as a teacher of religious education and spent the following 2 years assisting the kids down in the valley on the outskirts of the parish in their religious exploration. And so I became, on reflection, involved in the ministry of religious education. I graduated from high school when I was 16 and began working as an auditor in the City Treasurer's Department in Durban. One Sunday, my brother, Bill, he's watching us from South Africa. One Sunday, my brother Bill and I went and lined up at the Durban Cathedral in preparation for a procession through the streets of the city. We would do this each year as a manifestation of our Roman Catholic faith. A young priest approached us and began making conversation. He told us of his recent studies in Europe and of his work with young people, especially young workers and young students. He was very inspiring for me. He invited me to go to a meeting of young workers, and I agreed. And so began my involvement with the young Christian workers. I soon became heavily involved in this, and on reflection once again, Father Danke had invited me and introduced me to the Ministry of Social and Political Action and Involvement. A few years before this, in 1948, the Afrikaner nationalist government in South Africa had introduced apartheid into the beloved country. I came to admire our Archbishop, Dennis Hurley, very much. He was young and dynamic, and more importantly for me, he was an outspoken opponent of the apartheid regime. With all this background, when I was an adolescent, I began to experience within myself an urge, a kind of pulling or inner orientation to do something with my life that would bring about change in the country. I admit, too, that I wanted in some way to emulate the examples that Father Kelly and Father Danke and Archbishop Hurley had been in my life. All three of them as well were members of the Oblate religious congregation. And it so happened that Father Danke, who was so inspiring for me, was also the vocations director for the Archdiocese. Now, using the language of the days, of the times, and I'm talking language of over 70, 75 years ago, I remember going to see Father Kelly one Sunday afternoon and asking him how one knew if one had a calling to be a priest. I remember him smiling and telling me we should pray about it, and that was that. I spoke to my parents about this possibility. My Roman Catholic mother, whom I loved dearly, was not at all pleased, and my non-practicing Presbyterian father encouraged me to work until I was 21, and if I still had that crazy notion at that time, I could go with his blessing, which I did, and the rest is history. I spent a year in the novitiate, a year that introduced me to the religious life, a year of intense prayer and spiritual discernment. At the conclusion of this year, I was called to take my first vows of poverty, chastity, obedience, and perseverance in the Oblates. I then spent another 7 years in study and further discernment by myself and with the staff responsible for formation. At the end of this period, I was called to ordination. And when the Archbishop called me to be ordained on June the 25th, 1969, it was after 8 years of discernment, of letting all these thoughts and ideas percolate in my mind. Percolate. Fast forward about 25 years, when, after certain life changes, I came to this congregation. Here at FirstU, I've been involved in various ministries. Soon after arriving, even before I actually joined the congregation, I was invited by Val Cousins to be a member of the Ministerial Support Committee for Reverend Brian Kopke. Then Brian invited me to be part of a worship associates group that he was starting to assist him in the planning of worship services. Over the years since then, this ministry has changed and developed into what it is today. And I thank all our wonderful worship associates for the wonderful ministry they perform for us each Sunday. Early on, I joined the choir, which became the Chalice Choir, and I later joined the Fusion Choir as well, as part of the Ministry of Music. Then I was invited to be a lay chaplain. This was a ministry I enjoyed so very much because it allowed me to do rites of passage ministry for which I had been trained so many years before, funerals and celebrations of life, child namings and marriages. But now, at FirstU, not according to a book, but rather after discussion and planning with the family or couple or parents according to the particular rite of passage. When Reverend Len DeRoche was our interim minister, he began a men's group with a few men. This has grown and developed into our present men's breakfast group, which I see very much as a ministry of support, a ministry of hospitality, and a ministry of outreach, depending very much on what we are doing at the time. So far this morning, in sharing my experience, I've mentioned the words ministry and call and vocation. Allow me to share a few words about these. We don't use the word vocation very much these days. When I was younger, it was often used when speaking about certain professions, especially teaching and nursing and social work. Folks spoke about these as vocations. The word comes from the Latin word vocare, which means to call. Now, folk who experience some kind of inner calling, whether it be to be a teacher, or a nurse, or a firefighter, or a social worker, or a carpenter, or a plumber, invariably don't hear any voice that calls them explicitly to this job. It's more like an inner urge, an inner orientation, a sense of wanting to be. Many times it's an open response to the invitation from someone to do something and to be something in particular. The calling one has is this inner urge or this pull or this desire. Finally, the word discernment. In my experience, this was a decision-making in the context of prayer and sincere reflection. In our context, here and now, as we get involved in a discernment around the calling of Reverend Laura to be our settled minister or not, this means a sincere listening to each other in the context of sincere personal, and I might say even prayerful reflection. Our norms for discernment are our principles, our values, and the vision that we have here at FirstU. Letting our reflections and all of that information percolate in our minds as we come to a decision. As such, we're involved in a very serious matter. Is Reverend Laura to be our minister or not? It's serious for Reverend Laura, it's serious for our congregation, and it's serious for ourselves. When I followed my wife Marlene to this congregation over 20 years ago, there was no such thing as shared ministry. Brian Kopica was the minister. Liz Benjamin was the Minister of Religious Education, and that was it. There were a lot of committees responsible for certain things, and over the years, we had an extra minister, an associate minister, Reverend Lee DeVoe. We had a community minister, Reverend Gunawadeen. We had a minister of pastoral care, Reverend Ellen Bell. And we still had a lot of committees doing various jobs. It's different now. As Erin shared this morning's reading, those words from Mary Bennett, the concept of shared ministry is ascendant within Unitarian Universalism today. Here at First Unitarian of Ottawa, there are many ministries now in which we can be involved. We know them all. I'll just repeat them. Music, religious exploration, Ministry of Outreach and Welcoming to Refugees, hospitality, the Men's Breakfast Group, congregational leadership, the ministry that board has, reconciliation, for example, the Jaski, environment, the ministry that our gardeners have, and those that are building, keeping our building going. Worship, the worship associates, lay ministry. Campus planning is a ministry, as is community building through family meals, and we thank Nazim and his team for doing a wonderful ministry on Wednesday evenings here. Our minister is called to lead and serve the community and the congregation. Obviously, she can't or he can't do all the ministries herself. That is why shared ministry is so important. The minister is called to lead, called to care for the community, and in this, the minister has to rely on the congregation, on us, to help, to assist, and to share in her ministry. That's about all I want to say at the moment, so it's over to Lisa, who's going to share her experience of calling and ministry. Where's my machine? There.
25 years ago, I read Greg Levoy's book, Calling, Finding and Following an Authentic Life. It was required reading as preparation for a spiritual retreat that I was going to be involved in. So at the time, I found the idea of a calling unfamiliar. I associated it mainly with religious life. People like me, I thought, simply moved through life one step at a time. Still, I had been searching for a more intentional way to live. So Greg Levoy writes, how do we know if we're following our true callings? How do we sharpen our senses to cut through the distractions of everyday reality and hear the calls that are beckoning us? He continues, we are called to examine the many kinds of calls we receive and the great variety of channels by which they come to us. A calling may be to do something, change careers, did that. Go back to school, also did that. Have a child, did that too. Or to be something more creative, less judgmental, more loving, all of which I strive to do. While honoring a calling's essential mystery, The book also guided me to ask and answer the fundamental questions that arise from any calling. How do we recognize it? How do we distinguish the true call from the siren song? How do we handle our resistance to the call? What happens when we say yes? What happens when we say no? So I did not realize then that reading that book and doing the retreat work would reveal a calling that had been present in me for a long time. Looking back, I could see the thread clearly. At age 3, insisting that my mother put me in the playpen with my younger brother because he was sad and I did not want him to be alone. Sitting with friends through sadness and anger during my teen years, and spending more than 20 years as a manager who listened deeply. Over time, I came to understand my calling as presence and deep listening, first expressed, after I went back to school, as being a psychotherapist. Later, in ministry. So how true the saying that within the acorn lies the future oak tree. So within my early childhood experiences in adolescence and beyond lay a call to ministry. So by 2020, my understanding of calling and ministry had taken on a new form through the shared ministry of lay chaplaincy. A quotation adapted from the poet John O'Donohue captures this movement. The nature of a calling can change over time, leading a person down unexpected pathways. A calling opens new territories within the heart. In turn, those discoveries deepen the calling itself. This creative tension lies at the heart of calling, ministry, and shared ministry. Serving as a lay chaplain has been a rich experience of learning and growth. It has helped me continue exploring what calling and ministry mean in my own life. As a Unitarian Universalist, it has also given me a meaningful way to live our principles. So how did this begin? Well, in 2018, I was preparing to retire from my work in psychotherapy. I found myself wondering, how does one retire from a calling? Is it even possible? Around that time, 2 dear friends, Reverend Linda Gunwardine and Paula Teach, encouraged me to join FirstU. I did, and I found my spiritual home. And I began participating in groups that deepened my commitment to being an active, contributing member of the congregation. There was still something missing. In a conversation with Reverend Linda about my upcoming retirement, she said, "I can see you as a lay chaplain." And her words stayed with me. I began learning about lay chaplaincy through the CUC website and speaking with congregants who had served in that role. The more I learned, the more it felt like the next right step for me, the adjacent possible. I applied, and with generous support from Bob Armstrong and Alex Campbell, both exceptional former lay chaplains, the rest is history. There is something deeply meaningful about accompanying individuals, couples, and families through life's major transitions, marriages, child namings, the death of loved ones or animal companions, and ceremonies honoring the end of a marriage. I've heard tender words and heartfelt tributes, and I have witnessed remarkable creativity. At the heart of the shared ministry of lay chaplaincy are presence, active listening, and support. Reverend Erica Hewitt, who did a service here a little while ago, described shared ministry this way. Shared ministry is the collaborative practice in which religious professionals and lay people work together to create meaning, share worship, and offer spiritual leadership within a congregation and beyond. Those are my words. She further emphasizes that congregational life flourishes when leadership is not confined to clergy alone. Instead, members are empowered to share their stories, perspective, and voices, for example, by writing and delivering sermons. So worship becomes a communal offering. This reflects the theology that authentic relationship and shared responsibility are central to healthy, evolving religious communities. So let us connect calling, ministry, and shared ministry with the theme of this summer's services, the adjacent possible. The adjacent possible helps us discern, percolate on where to focus our efforts, rather than reaching only for distant goals. We can attend to the next adjacent step that makes genuine progress possible. As we move steadily into nearby possibilities, new paths for innovation, growth, and meaningful change can emerge. As author David Gerting suggests, the adjacent possible invites us to notice what is within reach and to act from there. In the reading that Erin shared earlier, Mary Bennett describes 3 possible ways of being in a congregation. Each of us bring unique gifts to offer, and how we use them depends on where we place our focus, as individuals and as a congregation. We are focused only on specific tasks. Are we building a vibrant, caring community? Or, as the song says, are we working towards a planet transformed by our care? So, as a congregation, we have reached a fork in the road. We are called to consider the adjacent possible as we discern whether to call Reverend Laura as our long-term settled minister, who will lead us into more adjacent possibilities. Now we begin a discernment process where we have an opportunity to let things simmer and percolate and think about this. And the process will give each of us time and space to consider the question of calling Reverend Laura. So, beginning with today's service and survey launch, so there'll be a survey for you to pick up at the back of the pews after the service if you choose, and our urn of discernment, which will be used every Sunday to collect your surveys. The discernment task force of Alex, Allie, Erin, Lee, and I will be offering several ways for you to share your feelings, feedback, and insights. Just a little preview of coming events. In the coming weeks, the task force will hold 2 focus groups, one in person after the service on September 20th, and one on Zoom on September 23rd. We will also host a fireside chat with Reverend Laura after the service on September 27th. Then the task force will review all the input, continue its discernment, and make a recommendation to the board. So you don't have to remember all of those dates. We will be communicating with you regularly via the EUU emails, being available to chat after services, perhaps making an announcement or 2. So we will be publicizing the dates early and often. So we, the Discernment Task Force, look forward to hearing from you. Back to you, Alec.
And so, fellow congregants of this beloved community, are you ready, willing, and able to be part of this process for the next few weeks? If so, loudly say, yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. So now please stand and we'll sing our closing hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
Oops, sorry. Oh, great.
For the singers I've heard, I say it's verses about 2
So you'll be singing verses 1, 2, 3, and 5. Now, as we prepare to extinguish our chalice, let these words from Reverend Erica Hewitt guide us forward. Shared ministry is the idea that the life of a congregation rests in its members' hands, and that every person in a congregation is called to serve in some way. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and possibility to the universe, to this community, and to each other. May it be so. And as we prepare to close with Spirit of Life, I'd like to invite you to our service next week with worship associates Alexis McKenzie and Chris Cormier as we celebrate our Pride service. So please stand in body and spirit to sing Spirit of Life. Enjoy your week, everyone.
Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. One foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other. One foot and lead with love. One foot in front of the other. One foot in front. Lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes. Don't you despair. Look up ahead. Look up ahead. The path is there. The path is there. One foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other. One foot and lead with love. One foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other. One foot and lead with love.
I know you're scared,
I know that you're
and I'm scared too. But here I am, right next to you.
right next to you. One foot in front of the other. One foot lead with love. One foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other. One foot lead with love. Lead with love. Lead with love. Lead with love.